it's to get to the end game, which is hopefully a career in a specific certification. So let's start things up here with an overview of software development fundamentals. So machines by themselves, well, they really don't have intelligence, so we need to tell a machine what to do and a computer what to do and how to do it. And we do that through programs. Programs are just a predefined set of instructions. So that's what we do. We tell a machine what to do by sending it instructions. And back in the old days, we had to use low-level programming languages to do this. And the reason we did is because machines have their own language. And their language is binary. At the most basic level here, it's all just ones and zeros, right? So this may not mean much to us, but to a machine, it means quite a bit. In fact, each one of these is a switch that can be either 1 or 0. It's called a bit. Where 8 of them together, strung together, is called a byte. So 8 bits are in a byte, and the combination of these could mean a lot to a computer. It could represent, a piece of data. It could represent a word. It could represent an instruction in code to do a task. It could represent a lot of things. And one application, when compiled down to the machine level, could, contain hundreds of thousands of zeros and ones. Nobody wants to write an application in all ones and zeros, right? That's just crazy. But you know what? That's what they had to do in the old days with assembly languages. Although it wasn't exactly ones and zeros, it was very close to it. And that's why we call them low-level languages, because they were very close to the machine level. Well, the past few decades, computer scientists have done a great job of bridging this gap. And that's really all the compilers and the tools that we're using today. They're just translators. They're translating our human languages that we're going to use to write these applications into the machine language so the machine can understand it and run our applications. So we're going to be using Microsoft's latest and greatest programming language here called C#. And C# is very popular these days. It's a great programming language. It's easy to use. It's once you get the hang of the syntax, it's easy to understand, and it's very elegant. There's also Visual Basic. And I've personally been using Visual Basic for a very long time. I've converted over to C# a few years ago, and I absolutely love C#. Visual Basic is just a lot of typing, but it's still a great programming language, don't get me wrong. And to the .NET framework, it doesn't matter what you use because it all gets compiled down to the same what's called intermediate language, IL or CIL. And we're going to be using the .NET Framework 4 for this Nugget series. But really, the reason IL exists and the .NET Framework compiles everything in the IL is because of all these different programming languages. These aren't the only two. These are just the most popular. There are many other ones. But when you create a project or a solution inside of Visual Studio, and by the way, we're going to use Visual Studio 2010, you choose what programming language you're going to create it in. So you'll create a C# project or a Visual Basic project or a Java project, J#. So you create these projects in these languages, and when it comes time to compile, you compile it. It gets compiled into IL. And when a user then runs your exe, runs your application, what will happen is the .NET Framework will take that IL, that compiled IL, and convert it to machine language on the fly so the machine can run it. So that's all really low-level stuff here that we don't really need to completely know right now, but you'll definitely know this stuff in the future because it's good to understand how the process works. And I just wanted to give you a bird's eye view of how this stuff works as well. So know that really writing applications is just a translation process. It's us writing applications so we can tell a computer what to do in our native language, and then these translators or compilers like the .NET Framework 4 will translate our human readable code into machine language code so the machines can execute our applications and run these instructions. So if you turn your attention to the right hand side, just wanted to give you a bird's eye view of the Software Development Fundamentals series. You are here. That's what this is all about. We're right here at the introduction at the very beginning. The first half of the series is really going to focus on C#. We're going to become software developers. We're going to be doing a lot of coding. So the first place to start is going to obviously be learning how to write code. So we're going to cover all the basics, all the core foundational aspects of learning C#, and then some. We'll go way beyond that as well. And you got to get you familiar with object-oriented programming as well. It's once you kind of think in terms of objects and you can learn how to think in terms of object-oriented programming, things get a lot easier. So we'll spend a good amount of time focusing on that. And then we'll move into software development cycle and what the software development cycle is all about here in managing not only the life cycle of an application, but the life cycle of the development process. So things like designing, developing, testing, releasing, managing, and maintaining. So we'll take a good look at Microsoft's framework for the development cycle. And then from there, we'll look at each specific area of development. So as a software developer, there's a lot of crossover between these areas. You may become a Windows developer and develop applications for the desktop. And desktop apps also entail things like Windows services, writing a Windows service, which is a a constantly running application. We'll also look at web applications, which are hosted inside of a web server and served up over the internet to a user in a browser. So we'll look at web applications. We'll also take a look at web services within here, web hosting, pretty much all the things you can think about when it comes to web applications. And at the end here, we'll look at database relational management systems, which are platforms to store data, such as SQL Server. So there's your overview of software development fundamentals. Let's zoom in a little bit deeper here and talk about the exam requirements that Microsoft expects from us. In fact, this is exam 98-361. So if we head over to Start and up to Internet Explorer and just Google 98-361 and head down right here, exam 98-361, first link underneath the ads and such, this is it. This is Microsoft's certification for the software development fundamentals. All right, so if we head over here, to give you an overview of it, we just want to hit up the skills measured tab. This is everything they expect us to learn. So the first section is understanding core programming here. We're going to understand computer storage and data types, how a computer stores programs and the instructions in computer memory. We'll look at memory stacks and heaps, memory size requirements. So pretty much the next video here, the next nugget in the series, number 2, we're going to focus on computer storage and data types. In fact, if you look at the title, that's what I called it, storage and data types. So we'll take a look at everything there is to possibly understand about working with variables, and we'll take a good look at a demo in here as well to find out how we can write our first application. Then we'll take a look here at understanding computer decision structures. We'll do our if-else's, our switches in select case. We'll learn about flowcharts, decision tables, and expressions. We'll also take a look here at handling repetition, for loops, while loops, do while loops, and any other form of recursion that we can think of. We'll take a look at how to handle errors, those unexpected situations that always come up. Maybe it's a bug in our code, maybe it's not. We have to handle them either way. But you can see this makes up 18% of the exam here, just understanding core programming. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 nuggets. Each nugget corresponds to each one of these dots. So that's a great way to look at it if you need to. And I also, again, name the nuggets very similar to what the requirements are. So if you look inside of here and you find a weak point, you can say, hey, I need to take a look at handling repetition because my loops are a little weak. Well, you can go and find that nugget called handling repetition and do a review. All right, so we also have understanding object-oriented programming. So we'll take a big look here at OOP. We'll take a look first at classes. Again, I'll really get you thinking in terms of how to create applications and how to design your application from an object-oriented perspective. So we'll learn about properties, methods, events, constructors, classes, how to use them. We'll take a look at inheritance. We'll take a big look here at polymorphism. We'll look at encapsulation. So these are all standard OOP topics. We'll take a big look and a lot of demonstrations. So just to make sure you understand these in and out, because these are very valuable in and outside of the exam, but in your everyday programming experiences. We'll also take a look at general software development. Here's where we're going to understand the application lifecycle. We'll look and learn how to work with specifications, how to turn them into prototypes. We'll look and understand about how to work with algorithms, specific algorithms here. We'll look at sorting algorithms, the bubble sort algorithm. We'll look at data structures such as arrays, stacks, queues, linked lists, get some good demos going on all of those. Those are, again, good everyday things to understand because they can help you solve problems. We also have, here's all the specifics then. Here's web applications. So we'll take a good look here at web page development from the client side using HTML, style sheets, JavaScript. Then we'll look at the server side here using ASP.NET. We'll look at web hosting, how to work with Internet Information Services, and then web services, how to work with WCF, Windows Communication Foundation, to create web services. We'll also look at desktop applications, Windows Form applications, which are your standard desktop applications, console-based applications working from the command line. We'll look at Windows services, and at the end here we'll take a look at databases. We'll talk about databases, just to get an understanding of all the objects within a database, how to query the data stored within a database, and then how to work with specific connection methods so we can connect to data stored in various formats. So this is what Microsoft wants us to understand before we take the Microsoft Technology Associate, the MTA exam for 98-361. All right, so I just wanted to point this out. If we head over to our slide here, here's what the nuggets are named. So you should easily be able to cross-reference them using the 98-361 webpage and the nuggets names in this series to find out what you need to learn or freshen up on before you take the exam. So just wanted to leave this here for reference, that we have all of the names of the videos here in their respective categories, again named so that you can easily reference Microsoft's requirements for this exam. Now, another thing I want to talk about and show you is Nugget Lab. Nugget Lab is where we're going to be doing all of our demos, our demonstrations, our projects, and our lab work. So Nugget Lab is just a virtual machine sitting out on the internet, and if we double click on it to remote desktop into it, this machine has all of our tools preloaded. So if we head over to Start, and up here we've got Visual C# 2010 Express. This is where we'll be doing all of our C# work. We'll create projects in here. We'll learn about C#. We'll learn how to build console applications, desktop applications, Windows services. We also have Visual Web Developer 2010 Express. Here is where we'll be doing our web page, web application, and web services development. We also, because we're on a Windows Server 2008 machine, we have IIS, Internet Information Services. This is where we'll be doing all of our web hosting work and learning how to create virtual directories and deploying our applications onto this web server. And then we also have SQL Server 2008 Express Edition installed here, so we can work with databases. So what's interesting about this is you can actually access the exact machine that I'm doing this on, because as we go and progress through the videos, the projects will start building up in the recently used list here. So all of the demos for all the projects will be in here stored on this machine. So again, you can access this machine directly, and if you want to head over to nuggetlab.com or cbcnuggets.com, you can find out more information on how you can access this machine and work with these demos just like I'm working on them. You can follow along, you can try to do them yourself, or even improve upon them. So if you hit Open Project, if they're not in the recently used list there, you can head over to Visual Studio 2010, Projects, and all of the projects will be listed inside of here. This is the default directory that Visual Studio uses to store the project files in. Alright, so that's a pretty cool thing that you can do here using Nugget Lab to work on the same exact machine that I'm working on, to follow along and do whatever you need to do. And again, the tools are all preloaded, so everything you need will be on here as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the certification roadmap. If you're here for the certifications, you're probably interested in where you need to go to become a certified professional. And you can go to Microsoft's website and hunt around, and you'll do a lot of jumping around to find out, but this information is all on there. So what I did is I tried to make it easy here and make one big view of it with a bunch of lines here, so you can kind of see where you need to go, what is prerequisite, to become a Windows developer, what are all the exams that I need to pass? To become a web developer, what are all the exams I need to pass? And the reason I put this at the end of the nugget here is if you want to use this as a reference point, just come to the first nugget, fly to the end of it here, the last 5 minutes or so, and you'll be able to take a gander at this roadmap and figure out where you want to go. So here's how it's laid out. The beginner and intermediate, these are considered fundamentals, and they're connected with these gray solid lines here because they're fundamentals to everything else. Now, if you want to become a Windows developer, for instance, then you'll need to become an MCPD. And by the way, you'll notice these are MTA exams. MTA stands for Microsoft Technology Associate. That's what the MTAs are. And of course, we're right here, 98361. You are here. And then the MCTS is Microsoft Certified Technology Specialist. And these are just prove that you're proficient in that specific technology. So they have one for Windows applications, for Windows Communication Foundation, for building web services, accessing data for accessing all types of different data sources, Silverlight development for becoming a Silverlight developer, and then, of course, web applications to become a web developer. So these are all prerequisites to the big ones here, the MCPDs, the Microsoft Certified Professional Developer. So once you pass the MCPD, you're considered a .NET 4 Windows developer. Full-blown, you've passed the entire track, you've got your MCPD. Same with the Azure developer, phone developer, and the web developer. They all have their respective professional developer exams, and then these also have prerequisites. So if you want to become a Windows developer, you need to pass 70-501, 513, and 516. If you want to become a web developer, you have to pass 515, 506, and 516. And you'll see this 516 pretty much touches everything because it's accessing data. It's something you're going to do no matter what kind of developer you become. So there's a lot of crossover between these, and that's a good thing, because if you do become a Windows developer, you only need to take a couple of more exams to become a web developer because you'll already have WCF and accessing data down. You'll just have to take the web applications exam. Alright, so in this CBT Nugget, we took a look at an introduction to software development fundamentals. We started off with just an overview of software development fundamentals, saw that writing an application and writing a program is really just translating what we understand into what a computer understands by using the tools available to us. In today's tools, we're going to be using Visual Studio 2010, the .NET Framework 4, and the C# programming language to make all that happen. And then we just took a brief overview of the software development fundamentals